Herd hierarchy.
Time is now. Let's go.
The top 10 NFL teams according to Colin. Number 10.
By an inch over the Steelers, the Minnesota Vikings. Their defense is gross, and I think they're going to lose to the New York Giants. But they're on a 7-game. No, they're not. Oh, whoops! I got the wrong thing here. Only team to win 13-plus games with a negative point differential. Defense is awful, but they've had 8 game-winning drives. That's a thing. It is important. I just don't trust this team. I think the Vikings are going to face the well-rested Giants, and it's going to be very uncomfortable up front. By the way, the Giants have gotten some pretty good protection for Daniel Jones, who's now running the football. So I'll put the Vikings in by an inch over the Steelers at number 10.
Number 9.
But I think the well-rested Giants beat the Vikings. 8-4-1 in one-possession games. And what Brian Daboll's done has elected to use Daniel Jones' legs as well as his arms. Daniel Jones, only the 13th player in league history to have 3,000-plus passing yards and 700-plus rushing yards. They've got a very good pass rush. I think it will unravel to some degree. Kirk Cousins, I have the Giants one spot ahead, and I love their coach over the Vikings at 9.
Number 8.
Chargers at 8. I don't know if I like them if Mike Williams doesn't play. Their rushing defense, like the Vikings, is an issue. Herbert can often be sitting on the sidelines watching a game because they can't get the ball back. But Justin Herbert, through 3 seasons, with a lot of coaching question marks, has the most passing yards and most total touchdowns by any player in league history. They don't have an identity. What they have is a remarkable talent at quarterback. I worry about them against Jacksonville if Mike Williams isn't around.
Number 7.
The Cowboys, great individual players. I'm not sure they have a unit that's great. The only team, though, to rank top 5 in scoring offense and scoring defense. And again, they've got individual stars. For the Cowboys, 5 losses, it should be noted, have been on the road. So when they're forced to be uncomfortable, they don't play great. Dax had an interception, 7 straight games with at least 1+ interception. It worries me, and the reason that's happening is because when they can't run the ball effectively, 4.55 yards a carry, they rely on Dak to throw over 35, 36 times, and his career record plummets. They have a formula to win. Cowboys at 7.
Number 6.
I really like the Jaguars. I've liked them a lot for a while. Second most points off turnovers in the league. For a young team, they take advantage of things given to them. Trevor Lawrence, since week 9, leads the NFL in passer rating. They're on a 5-game winning streak. Let's be honest about this team. They're not going to win the Super Bowl, but they're kind of a year ahead of schedule. They won their division. We thought this was the Colts division or the Titans division. Here they come. So a loose team with a gunslinger at quarterback, a Super Bowl winning coach. They get a playoff game at home against the Chargers, who are a little banged up. Jacksonville at number 6.
Number 5.
If Lane Johnson was playing at right tackle, I'd have him higher, but I'll put Philadelphia at 5 for now. I do worry. Jalen Hurts banged up. Lane Johnson banged up. Josh Sweat banged up in the D-line. They've just got a lot of injuries. They didn't have any. And what is happening now, this team in the last 9 games has turned it over 16 times. You remember the first 8 games? They never turned it over. So now they're turning it over, and now they're beat up. They're not the same team they were in mid-October, but out of respect, because I do think they have assembled a lot of talent. Second most talent-rich team in the NFC after the Niners, I put them at 5.
Number 4.
I put Buffalo at 4. Again, what concerns me, Brian Daboll leaves, and Josh Allen is back to making too many mistakes. This team had 27 giveaways this year. Only the Colts and the Texans had more, and they were awful at quarterback. And Josh Allen had 19 giveaways and 5 red zone interceptions. So we saw what Brian Daboll did to elevate Daniel Jones. I think Josh Allen misses him in the red zone. He's making too many mistakes. The margins are tight in the playoffs, and I think a red zone mistake will undo this team in January or early February.
Number 3.
The Niners. A rookie quarterback's never led a team to a Super Bowl appearance in NFL history. That's what it says here. So, I mean, they're the most talented team. 10-game winning streak. Number 1 scoring offense. Since Brock Purdy took over, they lead in point differential. I think I don't know if he's a starter. He's playing well now. I don't know exactly what he is. Here's what I know. Every unit has a Pro Bowler. Every single unit. Not the Chiefs can't say that. The Bills can't say that. The Bengals can't say that. This team is talent stacked. And Deebo Samuel, right? He's been resting, getting healthy. They'll add that dimension soon.
Number 2.
Kansas City, listen, their 3 losses are by a total of 10 points. They're situationally great. They're clever. They made everybody mad doing Ring Around the Rosie. There's a lot to like about him. Their defense, it was Spags. It depends on the matchup. I do think the greatest stat in professional football in America now is that Mahomes is now 16-0 on the road against divisional opponents. That's the craziest thing in the world. That's the craziest stat in football. And what I like is they didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher, and they didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver, yet they led the NFL in scoring. So we told you that going into the season, they would score differently without Tyreek Hill. They wouldn't be as singularly dependent, but we told you they'll still be productive. It'll just look different, and it has.
Number 1.
By an inch, Cincinnati. I do think they match up with Kansas City well, but whereas their defense, 9 takeaways in their last 3 games, is playing well, suddenly since Week 15, they can't rush the football because their O-line's banged up. So they're becoming a little dependent on Burrow, which worries me. They were a 2-headed running back machine earlier in the year. Remember, Mixon got hurt, didn't flinch. They've become a little Burrow dependent. I worry about the erosion of their run game. Averaging 60 yards running over the last 3 games concerns me, not just a little. That's what worries me about Buffalo. They bail on the run game. And with that, Nick Wright stops by. Okay, Nick. Steelers 11. What do you make of anything that jumps out to you in my top 10?
Well, good to see you, Colin. Good to see you, J-Mac. J-Mac wearing my favorite shirt. Love that look. So here's what jumps out to me, Colin. The Bengals concern me for the first time all year in a negative way. So the only person who I think's been higher on the Bengals last few months than me is you.
Yeah.
However, 2 things have jumped out to me, and then the injury stuff. The first thing jumped out to me is, I got to tell you, and I'm not the old man that yells at the cloud of the 2 of us. That's more your role. But I didn't love the coin flip celebration. It felt a little eye off the ballish to me. It felt like it was a little inappropriate given the context. And then Joe Burrow after the game, and that's your guy, and I think he's the 2nd best quarterback in football. He's right when he says their window is open his whole career, but I think it also somewhat ignores the fact of the matter is this might be the most talent-rich team he ever has.
Yeah.
Because they haven't had to pay him.
Yep.
They haven't had to pay Chase. They haven't had to pay Higgins.
True.
And then they did get a little unlucky with their road to the playoffs being Baltimore, then in Buffalo, then in Kansas City if the bracket holds. And if Burrow has struggled against anyone this year, Colin, after those opening couple games against Pittsburgh and Dallas, it's the Ravens.
Yeah.
Against the Ravens, he has 215 yards and then 217 yards, passer rating in the low 80s. That defense has done well against him. If the Ravens get Lamar back, I think that's a very scary matchup.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I think the Bills are going to be able to roll over Miami, assuming Tua doesn't play.
Yeah.
All of that concerns me for the Bengals. And then lastly, 2 weeks ago they lose Lyle Collins. Now they lose Alex Kappa. That's 2/5 of the offensive line. That's their big offseason additions. All of that, and lastly is this. It usually doesn't go this smoothly for this long of a period of time without a surprising hiccup.
Yeah.
And the Bengals haven't had that yet.